A lot of men don't really understand this or realize this until later in their life, but you're playing fair in a world that is truly unfair. And unfair, not saying that you have to blame everything on the world and say, oh, woe is me, I was born in an unfair world, things are bad. That's not the case. You have to understand that every human being, including yourself, has an unfair advantage that you need to use and you need to abuse. Because the minute that you start to use these unfair advantages that you're given to be able to leverage yourself higher up in society, higher up in the financial game, higher up in the social game, higher up in the overall game of life, that's when you're going to start to see how easy this life is to live. A lot of people are playing life on hard mode because their entire life is essentially taking all of their non-advantages and trying to make them their advantages, playing by systems that were created that are essentially unfair to them. You look at people who go through the standard rise, right? You start off, you go to school, you get a degree, you go get a 9-to-5 job, and you just grind at that 9-to-5 job, even though you're never getting promoted. You're working a job doing a skill that essentially is not the best skill that you have, but you have to use that skill because that's what you learned in school. You learn to be a generalist. You learn to essentially do the same shit that everybody else is doing, that are trying to climb up, that also don't understand what their unfair advantages are. And you're wondering why you still stay in that average state. Now, the people who play unfair, you can look at, for example, the elites of the elites, right? The elites of the elites play an unfair game, because they're playing based on their bloodline. They're playing based on their family names, Medici family, the Rothschild family. All of these people, their offspring understand that this is not a fair world, and that to be able to level up, to be able to maintain their position, their high positions in society, they have to leverage their family. They have to leverage their family's wealth. They have to leverage a lot of these things that were given to them at birth, not because they deserve it, but that's just because that's how the game of life works. Everybody spawned on this planet with a specific unfair advantage. Either you came from a wealthy family, which most of us didn't. I didn't come from a wealthy family. Or you were given a genetic advantage. I was given a genetic advantage physically. You have an objectively handsome face or a nice looking face. If that's you, you got to use it, right? And you might be saying, Martel, well, maybe I do have these things. Or you were given the gift of gab, right? You're able to speak and you're able to influence people and you're able to create results based on your words, based on your energy, based on who you are. You know how to deal with people. You're very empathetic. You understand how people are. You got to use that. And you might be saying again, Martel, how do I use that? How do I use these unfair advantages? You're listing them, but how the fuck do I use it? Well, the way that you use it is you have to audit yourself. Okay, what am I good at? What are other people saying that I'm good at that feels easy and effortless to me, but feels entirely impossible or hard to other people? You will have one thing, right? There are people that are really analytical. They understand numbers, right? That can be their unfair advantage. They get into a quantitative field. They start to trade, or they start to get into investment banking. They start to get into something that aligns with what their gifts are. And all of us were given these gifts, but they were muffled when we were born because we went through the educational system. We went through the factory of creating clones, the same people over and over and over again. We started to see people and we wanted to adopt their identity, not knowing that the reason that they're winning is because they basically prop their identity on their unfair advantages, right? But we're propping our identities on fair advantages, on things that actually aren't even advantages at all, are just regular. Right? Your hard work. Oh yeah, I'm just a hard worker. No, you just haven't figured out what your unfair advantage is, because when you figure that out, hard work doesn't become hard anymore. It becomes flawlessly easy. You start to wonder, like, am I cheating in life right now? Like, is this real? Do I have a cheat code? Because everything starts to move properly, right? For example, let's say you have an objectively handsome face. You're a good looking guy, right? The way that you would play with your unfair advantage is, let's say baseline, you go become a waiter at a country club or at some high-end resort or somewhere where rich people frequent to, right? And you start to show up and they start to like how you look and they like how you present yourself. And you start to persuade, maybe you have a gift of gab as well, which is that's a crazy combination. And you start to collect tips. You start to collect $100 tips, $500 tips, $1,000 tips. And you start to just rake in money, or you become a bartender somewhere. right? Or you become a model somewhere. Maybe you're modeling clothes, a fitness model if you have a great physique or something along those lines. You start to use that, right? And abuse it. Then maybe you get on social media because now you figure out how that works and you start to create content. And people love to watch content of people who look good and speak well, right? Because at the end of the day, if you can look good and you can speak extremely well, you can dominate social media. And when you can dominate social media, you can start to build programs. You can start to build coaching. You can start to do all kinds of things because people just want to connect with you because they like how you look and they like how you speak and they can relate to you, right? That's how you use your unfair advantages. Or again, if you were born in a wealthy family, don't be ashamed of that shit. Don't be ashamed of your unfair advantages, by the way, fellas. Don't be ashamed of what you were given because you can use that. And it's perfectly okay because no one who wins in this life plays fairly. I know that's going to sound extremely just brutal or something that a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around, right? People who don't think at that level won't understand what I'm saying, but truly nobody who wins plays fair. They had some advantage. They knew someone who knew someone who knew someone that plugged them in. They had a connection. They had something that got them started, right? And they used it and they leveled up. So you can't be ashamed of what your unfair advantages are. You got to use it because if you don't use it, then you're going to lose it. And you're going to get to a point where you're struggling in life and you feel like it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle because you refuse to acknowledge that you were given a gift and you were given that to be able to have an advantage in this world. All right, it's the same as a video game. Some characters, you pick specific archetypes of characters and they come in with, maybe they have more strength, but they have less vitality, right? Or maybe they have more farming ability, but they have less strength, right? So you have to lean into that. Maybe you then become a harvester because of that. Or if you have more strength, you become a warrior, you become a paladin or a gladiator or something along those lines. You got to use your strengths. We learn this shit in video games, fellas. And if you didn't play video games, you just understand this intuitively. That's why a lot of the guys who are really good at video games is because they understand, they're analytical, they're extremely obsessive when it comes to understanding video games. It's easy for them. They end up becoming big streamers and they start to make a lot of money. Maybe some guys, they're attractive, they're handsome, and they go and they become models and they make a lot of money. Or they go and they start content creation if they have the gift of gab. Guys who can speak, they go out, they start to speak in public settings. You look at Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins was an amazing speaker. Use that, right? He was a janitor, I believe, at one point in time, I think. And then he ended up becoming a popular speaker. He was something along those lines, became a very popular speaker, became a very popular coach, a writer, right? He knew how to communicate and he leveraged it and he built on top of it. You see, you have to be able to play to your unfair advantages while also minimizing your disadvantages. And you do this by not having to use your disadvantages, just acknowledging those disadvantages, and then over time strengthening them until they become strengths in and of themselves. Then you become the ultimate man, right? Now you can do anything. But the reason why a lot of people get stuck is because they focus on their disadvantages, because that's what society does. Like, oh yeah, you failed at this, so you have to retake this class again, and you have to keep retaking it, and it just destroys your identity because you keep just having this feedback loop that I'm not good enough. Your self-image just keeps going down, it keeps going down, and then you just want to give up. Versus if you just excelled at something and you knew, okay, this is what I'm good at, it becomes a domino effect. And now you have the confidence to go into things that you may not be good at because you have the foundation of what you are good at, and you improve them through confidence because you know that you're good at something else. Right? That's how you have to look at life. Be strategic with life, right? Understand, okay, I'm really good at this, I need to leverage this. What are some fields that I can get into that can leverage this? Or if I'm really good at numbers, if I'm really good at branding, okay, maybe I get into e-commerce, because I understand how that works. I understand human psychology. I understand human nature. That's something that's just good with me. Or I get into content creation. Or if I'm really good, for example, you might be just really good with speaking with women. Unfortunately, a lot of men are not. There are a lot of men who just are good at that. They're good at communicating with women. They create a whole brand around that and they run it up. You know what I mean? They run it up. And that's a big thing that you have to understand is, what am I capable of? What do I have that other people don't have? What is something that's easy for me that's hard for everybody else? And you use that. Then you become massively successful in your own way. See, success is not some like standardized blueprint. Like, you don't do the same things that other people do. You find your own unique edge and you use it, and you just massively win. And people don't understand how you're winning, because they're like, this is something that is not a part of the mold, but you're still doing it and you're still winning. And things are still working out for you, right? It's because you understand that life is not equal. It's not. You see, the hyper liberals want you to believe that everything is equal. Everything is equal. No. Everything's not equal. You have to use your unequal advantages. That's how you win. So I hope this video was valuable for you. This is something that I've had to learn myself, because, you know, I kept running away from the fact that I was in incredible shape. My genetics were impeccable. My work ethic was impeccable. My communication skills, impeccable. My, you know, the way that I present myself, impeccable. And this is just me saying that, right? Again, not to boast or brag, but that's genuinely how I see myself. And I stepped away from that for a long time. I got into something else, right? More technology, and I got into that as I got older, right? And it was an uphill battle. I still was able to do well because I started to leverage what I had, which was my physique and, you know, the way that I spoke and the way that I presented myself and all of that stuff, to be able to do well in that field. But if I would have came in and tried to be a nerd, which is what I thought I needed to do, I wouldn't have won, right? Or I wouldn't have evolved in that space. It's the same on YouTube. If I didn't come in with my shirt off speaking in front of a camera, I wouldn't have won. If I came in with like a hoodie on and I tried to be this philosopher, nobody would fucking watch me. But I had my shirt off because my physique, I believed, was a really good physique. It was something that a lot of people would admire. It was my unfair advantage. My speaking skills was a juxtaposition to how I was presented as this jacked black guy. If I'm able to articulate myself and speak, that's a juxtaposition, which makes me interesting, which makes people want to watch me. And I just leverage the fuck out of it. And that's how it works, all right? So again, I hope this was valuable for you. Links will be in the description if you want to tap into any of my programs. These programs will only be around for a little bit longer. I will be taking them down and focusing completely on my group mentorship around masculine identity, helping you with, you know, removing a lot of the shadows that you have that are keeping you from hitting your potential, really just solidifying who you truly are so that you can make strides and you can start to advance in life a lot faster than the average person. And you can actually start to see success a lot faster than you usually have, because usually that's tied to the fact that you do not have a strong identity. Identity is everything, and we are in identity war right now. Especially with the news, especially with the way that, you know, the media are trying to essentially mold your identity to be a docile creature, to be somebody who doesn't take risks, to be somebody who's scared, who's fearful. You have to have a locked in identity for this coming age to be able to win. And that's what I'm going to be helping guys with for the rest of this year. So again, if you're interested in that, join my Telegram. I will be announcing when that will be releasing soon. We'll have some early bird specials for guys who want to get in there early. It will be an experiential thing. It will not be a course. It will not just be a program that you just watch and that's it. It will be very interactive. I'll be pairing people together. You'll be doing in real world missions to be able to achieve more in life, to be able to feel like you're fucking living and not just sitting in a room and analyzing and over analyzing shit and never actually taking action. This is action based now. You're going to be scored. There's going to be hot seats every week. You're going to have contact with me through the group, weekly, 2 times a week calls. All right, I'm really putting everything that I can into this, because I do believe that if I had this shit coming up, I'd be a lot more successful at this point in time, if I understood my identity and I understood how important that was. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.